NAIA football fans? I'm only able to watch like one game at a time today because a little busy. We are doing some wheat harvest up here in northern North Dakota. So unfortunately, only one game at a time with limited cellular reception. I'm not running the fancy machines today. Combines, for those of you that know about ag. I am in the grain cart. I am the grain cart princess today. So just thought I would provide this update in case you saw, because this will be past tense now, a lack of updates on the Victory Sports Network. Yep, cutting grain.
NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
Welcome into the Victory Sports Network. This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. I'm Jason Dannelly, and as always on Sunday night, thank you for joining us as we take this opportunity to break down the NAIA football weekend. And what a weekend it was, starting off on Thursday night with one of the best matchups that we saw in the preseason as we were breaking this all down. Montana Tech and Georgetown, what's going to happen here? And then it's capped off Saturday night with a barn burner between Benedict and Morningside. We had an awesome weekend of NAIA football. Most of it I was able to catch after hours when I wasn't sitting in a grain cart helping with wheat harvest in northern North Dakota. But it was fun popping around from game to game on a cell phone, sitting up on top of a hill, making sure you got cell reception and everything just to watch some NAIA football. Was able to check out a bunch of games. We're going to talk about those and a whole lot more. First thing that I do want to bring up as we get going with the show and we get ready, let's talk about some of those winning performances that we saw this weekend from some NAIA programs and some NAIA games maybe you weren't expecting, starting with Damon Hockett, 10 of 20, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards as Taylor knocks off Siena Heights University 38-24. Then there was Trey Bass on Thursday night, 29 carries, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 61 yards receiving in Campbellsville's 34-33 win over U Pike, who has officially gotten the Dannelly jinx. Sorry, U Pike. You got a big game this week against Georgetown. Let's see who I'm going to pick. We'll figure that one out in a little bit. And then Dalen Rogers, 82 yards, and Jaden Jones, 45 yards, both with interception returns for Texas Wesleyan, who won on Thursday night over Lindsey Wilson in an out-of-conference, non-conference battle between the Mid-South Conference and the Sooner Athletic Conference. Lander Smith in that Thursday night game for Montana Tech, huge performance from him, 34 carries, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns as Tech knocks off number 3 Georgetown. Elsewhere in the NAIA, Tyson Dinkert, 18 carries, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns as Midland rolls 45-7 over Clark. Evan Leak, 75 yards rushing, 57 yards receiving, and a 98-yard kickoff return for a total of 3 touchdowns as Olivet Nazarene went on the road and knocked off the Concordia Cardinals 35-14. Ryan Whitwell for Indiana Westland, and Indiana Westland, I could have picked one of 3 guys here probably for a winning performance. 227 yards and a touchdown in Indiana Wesleyan's 59-0 trouncing of Madonna. And then the record setter, Gerald Monroe from Graceland University, breaks the NAIA single game record, 387 yards receiving, not passing. He was the guy catching it. Cade Ross was the guy throwing it. 16 receptions by Gerald Monroe, 5 touchdowns as Graceland rolled over Doane 49-11. And then Southwestern College's defense, one of the best defensive performances of the weekend. They limited Ottawa to just 93 total yards in their 41-0 win over the 2023 NAIA Championship Series qualifier in the Ottawa Braves. That is a look at the winning performances from this week. We've got a whole bunch of NAIA football to break down, and to help me do that is a guy that actually knows something about football. He was an offensive coordinator for a national champion winning team, twice in fact, and, well, he's spent his entire life around the game of football. He is not only a great offensive coordinator, but I also consider him to be a great friend. Mr. Pat Donnelly, how you doing, buddy?
Jason, you are buzzing tonight. Wow.
I
think
love
it's
it,
getting
baby.
back to the roots, getting back on the farm. You're rolling tonight, man. Just fantastic. Yeah, you're just there's tons of energy. It's exciting. We've got some great games to talk about. Like, you hit all those points of the great performances, upsets this weekend. Big time weekend of college football. Anxious to talk about it.
Oh man, I love it. It's been a great weekend. You know, I did have to dip out of some NAIA games for a while because I had no cellular reception where I was at for a little bit, and I sent a Snapchat to some friends as I'm in the tractor going, and I got the AM radio on, and just like the completely distorted sound of an AM station broadcast in the University of North Dakota against Iowa State, and listening to that game. I was like, is it even harvest if you're not blaring an AM radio with a football game on it? It was awesome, man. And I am buzzing because, well, I mean, 2 weeks ago we had a couple games. It feels like the season is finally here now. And I am absolutely just excited about it. I love it. And we've got a great guest coming up too.
Absolutely. I can't think of the amount of upsets in week one like we have seen. And again, it's a new season. We don't know all the details. Yes, your in-depth research of these teams, and we had a pretty good idea of how these teams would look. But man, some big games, conferences playing against each other from across the country, huge matchups. And we're seeing some teams that are, non-ranked beating ranked teams, or teams that are, in the 20s, like we said, Montana Tech, Georgetown flying out to Montana and winning that exciting football game. Just some great games to unpack today.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start it off with probably the best game of the weekend, and that's Benedictine and Morningside. And Benedictine went into Sioux City to Elwood Olson Stadium and put a statement out there right away. Got up 21-3 on the Morningside Mustangs and ended up pulling this one off 48-45. I tell you, this was one of those games. It was absolutely down to the wire. 1 yard line. Lennox Brown gets the call at the quarterback position. I'll call it a wildcat position because, as you can see in the statistics there, Lennox Brown spent most of the time at wide receiver. He had 11 catches for 126 yards. They put him in that wildcat spot where they had so much success with him last year, and he got stood up at the goal line by Benedictine, and it was just an awesome back and forth performance. Not only one, to see Benedictine go into Sioux City, Pat, and not be scared of a team like Morningside, who's had so much success at home, go up 21-3 on them. But then the performance by Morningside to say, hey, we're the Morningside Mustangs. We're not going to let this happen in our stadium. And to watch them battle back to get it 48-45. A great performance by Jackson Dooley of Benedictine, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. Most importantly, no interceptions. And that turnover in big games like this, we always talk about it, Pat, that really showed to be the difference here. Zach Chevalier, 36 of 60 passing, 521 yards. Holy cow, 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Those little things come back to bite you, especially when it puts points on the board for the other team. This was an awesome one, Pat.
I'm guessing wasn't one of pick 6 as well, Jason? I think
I believe so. I've seen so many scoring recaps today.
Sure.
That I do remember going for points.
I think it was early in the game, like that 21-point quarter. There's some turnovers there, and obviously, first game of the season, there's going to be some mistakes, some decision-making mistakes, and we saw another game we're going to recap here a little bit later. Just some quarterback decision-making errors and some big plays on defense, of getting some turnovers, major turnovers, and even leaving some scores, defensive touchdowns. So that's a huge part of this game. And again, you look at how things shook out. It's so tight at the end, and you look at those turnovers, how how much impact those truly made. But great offensive performances, great call on your part. Finding Lennox Brown was going to have a huge impact in this game, and where was he going to play? Ends up playing wide receiver and kind of that wildcat quarterback. So, what do you think about this, Jason? Does this, Morningside? I think they responded, obviously, do very well from this this loss, because they're certainly resilient, came back and made this a great football game. Where do you think they go from here?
I'll answer that in a second. 2 interception returns for touchdowns. One to start the game, 13:37 left to play in the first quarter, and then 11:27 left to play in the third. So there was 2 pick sixes in this game, and in close games like this, it'll be tough. Now, where does Morningside go from this? To answer your question, Pat, I sometimes, and I think nobody wants to lose a game. But sometimes when you come into a season like this and you get that bitter taste in your mouth early, it pushes you to respond. It pushes you to say, hey, we can't just, kind of lollygag through the season. We've got to respond in the conference. We've got Northwestern, who's quality. We've got Dort, who's quality. We've got an up-and-coming Midland team who just put 45 up on Clark. All of those teams are going to fight against Morningside this year. And so the Mustangs got to just recenter themselves, refocus, and respond. We know Steve Ryan is going to have these guys pointed in the right direction. The biggest thing, and we talked about it with this team a little bit last year, and not to put it all in the quarterback and interceptions there, but when you look at top programs in the NAIA, it's not interceptions, it's not fumbles, it's not special teams mistakes. If you make mistakes in those 3 areas, you kind of get pulled out of that elite level. And I think Morningside's going to respond. I want to see what they look like a month from now, and then I'll probably have a little bit better idea of where they're going to finish up this year. This game, you were able to watch this one exclusively. I was not. I was at the Dickinson State Rocky Mountain game in person, but you did watch this one cover to cover, as you could say. Give me your thoughts on this game. I've seen all the stats. I've seen some highlights. Man, great game in Butte.
Yeah, the stats are really indicative of how things played out. I thought Montana Tech did a great job defensively of trying to bottle up Darius Neal. Great running back for Georgetown. You see 20 carries, 87 yards. It's a pretty good day. But again, it just seemed like there's a lot of long conversion situations, especially the first half, that Georgetown had to face. You see Garrett Sloneker, great quarterback for Georgetown, had a rough night. 4 picks. One was a pick six. Another one, the ball was taken down inside the 5. So it really put Montana Tech in business off turnovers. I thought the secondary play from Montana Tech was very, very aggressive and strong. The young man, the defensive back, had 3 picks. I don't know if we have a name on him. Jason, I'm trying to think. Cole. Excuse me. I'll look that up here in a second. One of the defensive backs, Montana, 3 picks, and was just all over the place. Made play after play after play, and really, changed the momentum constantly. When Georgetown had things going, he'd come up with a huge play and just deflate that. And you can see Sloneker had some decision errors, just kind of forcing balls into places that didn't belong. But that Montana Tech D was exceptional. Then you go to the offensive side, Lander Smith. Tell you what, there's a name to keep an eye out for the remainder of the year. Big, physical, tough guy. Can kind of do it all. He's good out of the backfield as well. Reminds me a lot of the young man at Kaiser. Is Meisinger, very, very similar in that, kind of that bell cow type guy that you want to feed the ball to, physical, 200 yards on the ground. And what an end to this game. So here's the deal. Montana Tech's going in to make it a 2-score game at late in the 4th. I'm talking less than 3 minutes, I think, to go. And Lander Smith has a big run inside the 5, fumbles the football. Georgetown takes it 97 yards to essentially tie. They go down 1. They go for 2. They're up by 1 with a minute 30 left or a minute 40 left, something like that. And Montana Tech drives the field, throws a touchdown in the back of the end zone, wins the football game. Just an awesome finish. Anxious to talk to Coach here a little bit about that game. But what a tremendous football game. What a setting. The fan base, it was the all-copper game or the copper game. So cool. The fans there in Butte just came out in force, and just a great game. Just a great NAIA football game to open the season.
Yeah, Jaden Downs is the man.
Thank you, Downs.
Think
yes.
of their
awesome
Downs
player.
Had 3 interceptions. That's outstanding. How I missed it on my stat line here, I'll tell you. No, I mean I missed it because, well, frankly, when I was waking up this morning,
taking a lot of stats on the
no,
card.
a little tough. And then doing it 5 a.m. this morning, before everybody and the baby and everybody was awake.
Sure.
I
No,
was
Downs,
hammering
he made
through
a
it.
ton of plays, Jason, just all over the field. Kind of baiting Sloneker into some throws and jumps the route. I mean, just did a really great job. He's fun to watch. Great speed. Once he caught the football, he made something happen with it. So just very impressive, Montana Tech. I'll tell you, Georgetown was a little flat, Jason. It seemed like the first half they had a little jet lag. To be very honest, I didn't see the same fires we saw maybe a year ago. I thought they had some moments of turning it back on the second half. The defensive score at the end of the game, you saw life again, had a great 2-point play to go ahead. But just kind of flat early on, just kind of a different deal. It's obviously a long trip, and there's some challenges with that. But Montana Tech came to play exceptionally well in a great football game.
Yeah, while you were watching that game, I was kind of checking it on my phone. I was at Dickinson State and Rocky Mountain, again, the NSAA versus the Frontier, which is soon to all be the same conference 365 days from now. But Dickinson State, like early on in this game, first drive or two for Rocky Mountain, Rocky had moments where they were moving the ball and looked athletically to be the team that was going to be able to compete with Dickinson, maybe shut down that running game a little bit. But early season games like this, they always go to the mistakes. You throw a pick, you fumble the ball, a fumble return all the way for a touchdown. These are the sort of things that happened in this game to shoot Rocky in the foot. And Dickinson had some early injuries, lost a center at the start of the game, lost a tight end, the All-American Brantley that we have talked about on this program. So those guys go down in this game. I'm unsure on what's happening in weeks to come, but they go down in this game, so they have to shuffle guys around already early in the season. And in fact, one of the guys that was, slated to be the backup center was also a tight end. So they're already thin at both of those positions because they got one guy kind of trying to cover both areas. So it will be interesting to see how Dickinson State continues to improve. They ran the ball well at times. Will Madler was able to scramble, get some real nice passes slung out there. The thing I want to talk about, Dickinson, I haven't gone to a lot of NAIA games in official capacity in the last 5-10 years. I've gone, but I haven't pulled the whole "do you know who I am" sort of thing. I've stayed away from that, but I let Dickinson know I was coming. And hospitality out there in Dickinson, North Dakota, next to none. Those guys were awesome, treated me well. I had a spot up in the press box. I always choose to be on the sideline as much as possible, but I did get an opportunity to walk through the press boxes, the suites and everything they have in Dickinson. Tremendous looking facility. There's a picture of it on the Victory Sports Network from Thursday night that I took with my drone when I had it out there flying around, not over the field. Don't freak out, everybody. I had it clear off in the back, but just
cool.
Awesome setting for the game. Yeah. So I was able to be at that one on Thursday while you were obviously checking out the Montana Tech game. We keep rolling through the big games, the ones that were between rated teams, and Evangel, a team that I was not high on to start this season, mostly because they were replacing quarterback, they were replacing running back, they were replacing wide receivers. Well, guess what? They found a way to do it. Despite the fact they started off this game down 7-0, they came back, ended up beating number 24 Kansas Wesleyan 35-24. Reed Potts is the name that we're going to be hearing at the quarterback position from Evangel. Throws for 257 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kansas Wesleyan on the other side, you can kind of see the statistics there. McNair 125 yards through the air on 15 of 23 passing. Brock Lyle, who I misspelled his name there, as you can see, 7 receptions, 157 yards, 4 of those 3 touchdowns. So Potts and Lyle already very familiar with one another early in this season. Pat, KCAC early season game where this conference has got 2 rated teams going up against one another. Evangel walking away the victor.
Yeah, great for Evangel. That's again, like you mentioned, they're a ranked team. We were looking into this team being a potential contender, and certainly come out and make a statement. Huge second half. It's just that third quarter. Coming out and really putting some good football together in a classic top 25 matchup. So great start to the season for Evangel. And again, that's a league that's much maligned, but you have 2 quality opponents like that, and the great showcase of the league last night.
Just when I think I know what's going on in the KCAC, the teams in that league continue to prove me wrong. Because I was like, hey, K-Dub, they have the late season loss to Ottawa. They got guys back. They're going to be coming with vengeance. Evangel has a loss. This is K-Dub's conference. Week 1. Guess what? All up in the air. And then you have Friends went out and got a big statement win this weekend too. We'll get through the top 25 here in a second, but the KCAC, just about the time that you think you've got that conference figured out, you're gonna get proven wrong. I don't care if you're an expert in that conference. I will go back to the media poll that they put out every year and go, you guys got it wrong too. Okay, we all don't know what we're talking about. And then you've got the wild card of Mike Gardner in there at Tabor. Could they go 10-1 this year? I don't know. Mike Gardner's coaching them. It could happen. Mike Grossner, he was, of course, coaching at Bethany. They lost yesterday to Avila, but looked pretty good against Avila. Had a chance to check out about a quarter and a half of that game. So, but anyway, let's get through our top 25 here. Just a quick rundown of how everybody fared in the top 25. Of course, Kaiser, Northwestern, no games. We talked about Georgetown College of Idaho, 65-0 against a first-year program in Simpson. This was Simpson's first game. Congratulations. Welcome to college football, Red Hawks. You get to play teams like College of Idaho now, so yeah. Grandview also with the bye. They will start with first-year program William Woods next week, so that will be an interesting game for William Woods, who started off against William Penn, and they will now go to a very physical Grandview team to play. The second half of that top 10, Indiana Wesleyan, as we mentioned, 59-0 over Madonna. They've got probably one of our games of the week. Next week against St. Francis of Indiana. Marion did not play. Bethel got a win over Point. Not incredibly impressive score-wise there, but as I looked at that conference this year, I kind of felt like Point is one of those teams in the middle tier of the conference, maybe with an opportunity, given their returning starters, to move themselves up to the top tier. Plus, Bethel breaking in a new quarterback, a lot of skill positions there. They'll get tested next week as they'll go up against D3 Mary Hardin Baylor. St. Xavier did not play. Morningside, excuse me. Morningside, of course, the win over Benedict. And Pat, just to briefly hit back to you, since there is kind of some teams from your area here. Indiana Wesleyan, there were some question marks at the quarterback position for these guys, at the running back position. All those guys came out all world against Madonna, but Madonna, as we know, has been a program that has been struggling since 2020. But a good first game for Indiana Wesleyan to kind of, not really break the rust off, but maybe take the plastic off of the new toys that they have here.
Sure. Big game next Saturday night in Marion, Indiana, with St. Francis of Indiana going down to play. Should be a really good one. Again, I think Indiana Wesleyan having that first game, at least playing someone else, does help quite a bit. So it's going to be an interesting game. I plan on being there next Saturday night to see that one. But Indiana Wesleyan's one of those programs, Jason, they're established at this point where they're going to reload. They've got quality depth and players in the pipeline that will fill in those spots after those kids have graduated here the last few years. So not surprising they came out, with great replacements to those key spots and had a big football game.
Getting to the middle half here, 11 through 15, Montana Western did not play. St. Thomas of Florida, I was excited to watch this because I wanted to check out Rontavious Farmer. Granted, they're going up against the University of Fort Lauderdale, who already lost last week to Weber International. This game barely got started, then got in a lightning delay, then they played for a little bit, and then now they have postponed to a later date. This game ain't getting played ever. No. I'm just going to say that there's no incentive for St. Thomas to put this back on the schedule, unless for some reason they've got 2 bye weeks in a row. And from what I remember on their schedule, that's not happening. So they'll play Louisiana Christian next week at home in Miami Gardens, Florida. So that will be an interesting game, as Louisiana Christian, new head coach, in the top 25, going up against another top 25 school. We'll talk a little bit about that one later on. Dort, excuse me, no game. They go to Midland. We talked about the Evangel and the Dickinson games for the top 25 here. Otto, Arizona, and Baker did not play. Otto, Arizona playing Texas Wesleyan in Arizona this week. That'll be a very interesting game for that conference. We'll talk more about it in a little bit, but Texas Wesleyan coming high off of a win over Lindsey Wilson, as they'll go up against the team that maybe had an argument to make the postseason last year. Reinhardt starts the season 0-1. They lost to D2 Carson Newman 50-7. I'm a little alarmed by that game because Reinhardt, playoff qualifier last year, maybe the favorite in their conference, along with Pike and some of the other ones in there. And Carson Newman is, when you and I think of Carson Newman, we're thinking Ken Sparks, we're thinking NAIA championships, we're thinking a run in Division II. This is not that Carson Newman anymore. So I did not really expect Reinhardt to win the game, but a 50-7 loss maybe makes me go, how are they going to respond to this one?
Yeah, I would agree with that. You would think, when people get down to it, you can compare Division II NAIA. If you're a playoff team in the NAIA, you should be competitive with about anyone in Division II. Competitive. And again, you're not going to win all those matchups. Some they will. But yeah, you would think that'd be a much closer score, no doubt.
We talked about Lindsey Wilson and Benedict's games already, so we get to the last part of the top 25, Montana Tech, who, with a little bit of luck, we will have their coach, Kyle Samson, joining us in a little bit. Now, I'll explain more on that in just a little bit. A lot of buys there, and I had mentioned Friends playing St. Mary, handily beat them 52-6. And St. Mary is a team offensively last year really did some nice things. I mean, they put up points. I was looking at how things were going for them with returning starters and everything this year, and just was thinking to myself, you know what, they've got a chance maybe to make a little bit of noise in this conference. And then they only put up 6 points against Friends. Offensively, just 13 first downs, 220 yards of total offense. So a little bit of a rough go. Credit to Friends, they actually threw the ball a couple times for 56 yards. They also rushed for 464 yards pass. So
it's quite a bit.
That's a heck of a lot of running the football.
A lot, yeah.
Hey, it does sound like with luck, we will be having Coach Samson on in about 5 to 7 minutes, he said. So it'll be awesome. We're going to be talking with head coach of Montana Tech, Kyle Samson, here in just a little bit. This is like perfect timing, Pat, because that kind of gets us through the top 25, the top games this week that we're looking at. We talked about St. Francis and Indiana Wesleyan. This is going to be a great one in the NAI. St. Francis is a team I think that's got a lot coming back. Indiana Wesleyan with some new faces, getting this one at home. Should be a great one.
It could be great. Again, we talked about it before a couple weeks ago when my old man, Coach Dannelly, was on. And I think this is the best roster St. Francis has had in about 6-7 years. I think it's a great group of guys. I've been to some practices and seen some of the athletes they have. It's an athletic team, Jason. They run exceptionally well offensively and defensively, have some great playmakers. I think there's some good quarterback play. There's still some battling going on. I think there's a quarterback that's emerging. But, man, they talk about deep. You got 3 quality quarterbacks that I think can lead this team. I'm not joking when I say that. So I think it's a tremendous roster from USF. With that being said, Indiana Wesleyan, like I mentioned, has established themselves and built this program. And what a facility and what a program that they've built there that, they're sliding to new guys and reloading. So great setting, Saturday night game, and that unbelievable facility. So I'm looking forward to being on the sideline for that one.
It's going to be a great one. We're definitely looking forward to breaking it down here. For anybody that is watching on Facebook or, any of the places you could throw a comment in, if you have a comment you want us to respond to or ask Coach Samson when he comes on, we can certainly do this. I previewed this game a little bit earlier, Sooner Athletic Conference. We've got Texas Wesleyan coming off of a big win over Lindsey Wilson, going on the road to number 16, Ottawa University of Arizona. It's a shame that this game is so early in the season, but it's going to have postseason implications because whoever wins this game is definitely going to be in the driver's seat, because this is 2 of the better teams in the Sooner Athletic Conference going up against one another. And you're going to have a quarterback battle between Guerin and Rogers in this one, 2 very good quarterbacks in NAIA football. This will be, a great one in the Sooner Athletic Conference. And like I said, early season implications for the postseason in this one. We'll be talking with Coach Samson a little bit. It's as old as time itself, I think, Pat. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. Montana Tech and Carroll. Like, when is it not one of the top games of the week when they play one another in NAIA football?
I think watching them play last week, them as in Montana Tech, we hit the nail on the head. The depth of this league, I think, is going to be tremendous, like we've talked about. So I think this is going to be a huge game for both teams, obviously. But I think Montana Tech, just riding this momentum. At the same time, that it was an emotional win the other night. Luckily, it was a Thursday night. Get a couple extra days to recover and kind of get, the adrenaline cycle back on track. And, rivalry game going on the road to play, one of the best facilities there is at Carroll College. So that's going to be a tremendous game. Looking forward to that as well. No doubt.
And you sometimes wonder, like, you've just beat the number 3 team in the country. Oh, geez, is there going to be a letdown? If there was anybody else on the schedule but Carroll College, I would say that could be a possibility. That ain't going to be a possibility.
Right.
This is one of the best rivalries in the NAIA. That's a whole nother show that you and I are going to do someday, Pat, of best rivalries in the NAIA, current, past, future, all that sort of thing. But this one is definitely current and past and future, as long as they remain in the same league. Intra-conference or non-conference battle, I guess you could say. Sooner Athletic Conference is Louisiana Christian. Go to number 12, St. Thomas, Florida. I was thinking St. Thomas would maybe have a little bit of an edge because they'd have a game under their belt playing the University of Fort Lauderdale. That's not going to happen. So both them and Louisiana Christian will be playing in their first game. St. Thomas with the home field advantage in this one. I lean towards them, but two up-and-coming quality programs in NAIA football here.
Be a lot of fun. Athletic teams, long travel for Louisiana Christian. I'm sure they're driving it. It's going to be, that's going to be a challenge certainly, but that'll be a really, really good game. Wonder if, weather being a factor, being hot and humid and that sort of thing. And of course, storms this time of year. We obviously have ones postponed and probably not are going to be rescheduled. So, going to be exciting, and 2 athletic teams. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and I you know me, I'm a running back guy. I get all juiced up for that, and I just want to see what Rontavious Farmer's going to look like this year. I think he's one of the best running backs in NAIA football, and frankly, I like watching guys run the football. So look,
You're from
big
Nebraska.
Guys. Yeah, exactly. I grew up in Nebraska. Like I am of the low man trophy. Let's get the fullback back in the game, all that sort of stuff. So with Midland getting a big win over Clark to start the season, they're now 1-0. They will go up against number 13 Dort, who has not played yet this year. So Midland with maybe a little bit of an advantage, having a game under their belt. And the other reason I look at this being a big game is just frankly because Midland almost ruined Dort's season last year. Dort was able to make it into the postseason, but they had an early season loss to Midland, so there's a little bit of a back and forth that could be happening here to add a little bit of extra oomph to this game.
Revenge is always good. Yeah, this is going to be a good one, certainly. Thank the world of Dort. I mean, I think they've had a great end of last season and excited for this season. This is going to be a little revenge game for sure.
Well, with that said, and with perfect timing, and our fingers crossed that everything works, because anybody that's watched this show the last couple of weeks, we have had some issues bringing some coaches on, but Kyle Samson has joined us. He's down in the queue. I can see him. He's just fresh off the football field. We're going to throw him in here, and we're going to see if all the audio and stuff is actually going to work, because we're not technical people here. Coach Samson.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah,
awesome.
We got one.
Fantastic.
This is great, Coach. I appreciate you coming on. I know that you guys, you'd mentioned that you were on the field up until probably 5 minutes ago with kind of your Sunday walkthrough and Sunday practice and everything. So I definitely appreciate you coming in so quick to talk to us about what was a great Thursday night football game and what's going to be another great week of college football.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Jason and Pat. And we just had our Sunday practice, got off the field, and getting ready for another huge challenge. Obviously, we've got a tough slate of games here to start with a great team in Georgetown last week, and then we've got Carroll College coming up on the road this upcoming Saturday. So, definitely no rest. We got to get back to work, but we're excited for the challenge.
Coach, we're definitely going to talk about the Georgetown huge win on Thursday night. Looking a little bit ahead here with Carroll College this weekend. How probably a great thing you played on Thursday, give you a couple extra days for the holiday weekend. You're back in now your normal routine on a Sunday, getting ready for this game. So, how is that? Looking to give the guys a day off or two and kind of recover and get back in the normal swing of things.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely. With that, especially how physical that first game was against Georgetown and how physical they are. We brought the guys back in on Friday and watched the tape and, made some corrections and that type of thing, and then gave them the day off yesterday. And then we were in this morning, putting together our scouting reports and initial game plans for Carroll, and just got off the practice field. Nothing crazy, about an hour and 15 minutes today on the field. But like you said, it definitely helps to have a little extra day to recover with how physical that game was. And having tomorrow off for Labor Day, school wise helps a little bit just to get a little extra time with some meetings and stuff, and then kind of back to normal schedule on Tuesday with back in class.
Couple more questions about this Thursday game before we move forward to this next week. And Pat's the X's and O's guys. He's going to have all the X's and O's questions. I'm like the administrator guy. How does this game come up? How do you decide, and how does Chris Oliver decide, hey, let's play one another, and we're going to come up to Butte and play you guys for the first game of the regular season? How'd this game even come about?
Yeah, it's kind of so. Honestly, like the backstory is, it like 2 or 3 years ago, we had scheduled the home non-conference games with Simon Fraser. And that was, I'm calendar-wise, I feel like that was 2 years ago. This was supposed to be year 2 of that contract. And then obviously, that spring when Simon unfortunately had their program swept out from underneath them. And we scrambled last year. We were able to find Central Washington last year because Central was scheduled to play Simon Fraser. So we got Central Washington for a 1-year deal. But this year, after this, the Central Washington was just a 1-year deal. And so we were really looking for a non-conference game, a home game. The way our schedule set up is before we had this non-conference with Georgetown, we're not going to have a home game until October. So we go, home to Georgetown, we go at Carroll, then we have a bye, and then 2 more straight away games. And then we don't come back here to Butte for about a month. So we really were trying to get a home game. We had a couple NAIA schools that were really interested in coming to play us. And then they kind of fell through. That was like January, February. And then we had just kind of reached out, put it out there, and that we were looking for a game. And Coach Oliver had reached out to us that they had kind of a similar situation where they thought they were going to have a non-conference game, and that kind of didn't happen. And we were able to work it out. Coach, great guy. I had not met him before, talking to him on the phone, email him, and then never met him in person until this last week. But he was super easy to work with. And obviously they're a tremendous program with a ton of tradition, and so it just kind of worked out where they were looking for a game, and we were looking for a home game. We were able to, help them out with a little bit of hotels and meals and stuff like that to get them out here. Obviously a long trip for them. But it worked out good. And we could only, it wasn't a home deal because next year our schedule completely changes because we add those 5 new conference members to our league. And so really there's not going to be an availability for us to schedule a real true non-conference game next year with the 14-team league. But yeah, it just kind of worked out. We're the middle of March. We were able to sign that contract, and it was obviously worked out okay. And it was a great test and a challenge for us. And I think it'll really help us going into our conference schedule, playing a really good football team like we just got off the field playing.
Coach, I was able to watch the start to finish. What a great football game. I thought the environment, I thought your students and your fan base just came out and were electric. I love the copper. That was cool. The copper game. That's a cool deal. And the field looked great, brand new field. And I thought your team came out on fire. They're ready to play, physical, fast, tons and tons of energy. Where I thought Georgetown took a little bit to get into the game. And I think especially early with the turnovers you created and the physicality you really set the tone with the game early on was definitely noticeable. Yeah,
I think that like you said, we knew that. Watching their film from last year, they're a very physical team. They pride themselves on running the football. We knew we had to. We knew we weren't just going to stop them. We knew we had to limit. Their tailback and their running game, and they've got some dudes, and we knew their defensive front was really good as well. I was proud of the way we started. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot early in the game with a couple penalties, and unfortunately, I thought our turnovers I wasn't super excited about, and some of those were, credit to those guys for causing them. But, I think we need to take care of the ball better. But defensively, I was so excited about the turnovers we were able to get and just forcing them. And they can come with huge 4th down stops on the 1-yard line and being able to capitalize on those. But, yeah, I think that, and you guys both know this, the first game is always – you kind of always have those first game mistakes and first game things that you need to really correct. But I was really proud of our guys for being able to overcome some of those first game things that happen and pull out a big win against a tremendous team. And I think that it'll give us some really good confidence moving forward to be able to make some adjustments and corrections. But it's always fun to make corrections after a win. It makes it a little bit easier on the next day.
100%, Coach. I'm originally from Nebraska. Grew up loving football in the 90s, so I'm a fullback, run the football, sort of guy. And when I see a guy like Lander Smith have a game like he did the other night, I'm just sitting there going, college football, the way I love it, is not dead. So I love that. Lander Smith was a guy that obviously was a contributor to the team last year, shouldering the load this year. Yeah, also last season, you kind of had some key players get banged up. So anything that you're doing differently with a guy like Smith this year to try to, they're going to get banged up. I mean, they're physical running backs, but anything that you're trying to do or have actively done to try to, help them stay healthy longer this year?
You bet. Yeah. And I think that, for sure, and I'm kind of kicking myself. I mean, he had 35 carries. That's probably not the best thing, but he was playing so well that it was in the situation of the game at the end of the game where we knew that we were trying to run the clock out. We definitely got to be a little bit smarter, and that's on me to be smarter as far as how many touches he gets early on, because we need him healthy down in the home stretch. But I think that we're trying to be very mindful about how much contact during the weeks within practice. I thought we changed up our fall camp schedule a little bit. We actually went 3 days on and 1 day off as far as practices to try to maybe see if we could come into that first game a little healthier, which I thought this year, every year you're going to lose a guy or two in fall camp or someone's going to get banged up. But I thought we were for the most part pretty healthy going into week one. But yeah, now being able to manage each week, especially with a guy like him who runs so physical and, he's attacking the defense. But I think that's a big deal, is like you hit on it, Jason, is just, making sure that do the best we can to make sure we've got our guys for the home stretch, because it's going to be a long season. And we know that. And in the frontier, every week's a battle. And usually it comes down to who's the healthiest at the end of the year. Because at our level, I feel like we got good depth, but, there's only so much depth that you have in order to compete at a championship level.
Coach, we discussed already the turnovers created on defense, tremendous playmaking ability creating those turnovers. The goal line stands early in the game on fourth down, just unbelievable. Your running game, all those things. You control the situations of the game very well. I thought you guys won the key points, the red zone, the third down conversions, creating the turnovers when Georgetown was threatening. I thought you did a tremendous job. You had a chance to go in and get a 2-score lead late in the fourth quarter. Your bell cow running back. I'm not sure that was a fumble, by the way, because it was a great run inside the 5-yard line. Georgetown takes it 97 yards. You find yourself, they're down 1. They go for 2. They go ahead. And Coach, how much time was left? They didn't have the clock overlay wasn't showing. I couldn't remember exactly the time, but you were less than 2 minutes, correct?
Correct.
We were having to march down the field.
Yeah, I think it was 138 or 141. What a goofy string of events there. And
shows your resiliency.
Yeah, I really believe that that's going to do a lot for us down the stretch, as far as having that belief that we're in a tough spot, and you could just feel the life was sucked out of the stadium and sidelines. We're like you said, we're going to really punch it and put the nail in, and then unfortunately that happens and we go down, and they have a really good 2-point play and get up by 1. And but I was really proud of our guys on the sideline, starting with our quarterback Blake Thielen. Just brought our guys together and said, hey, we're going to go down here. We're going to score. He was able to lead a really good 2-minute drive. And then, came out and made a big time play with the, 15 seconds left or whatever it was to hit Wyatt on the touchdown. But I think that it really speaks to the leadership, and we're a very veteran team. And I think that's one thing that stood out on Thursday night is we've got as many seniors as I've ever had here since I've been here. We've got 28 guys. And a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football, and I think that their ability to stay calm in those adverse situations, I think really showed, and I think, like I said, just the ability now to go into the next part of the schedule and know that we saw a lot of different crazy adverse situations, both good and bad, in that game, and you guys know just the experience that you can get, and you can't really replace that experience, and then just the confidence to be able to know you can go do that, I think is a big deal.
Yeah, it was a huge game for you. Thursday night. And like you said, those first games, you get a chance to get put in some of these scenarios before the stakes get even higher. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about and asking you questions about Saturday game at Carroll, because I've attended that rivalry before. The last thing I want to do is put you in a position where you're giving bulletin board material to the other team. We don't need to make this any more of a crazy rivalry than what it is. But you've got Carroll Saturday. What's a game like this mean for your program and just for the region? It's a huge rivalry.
It is, and it's something that's, I think, pretty cool. And we're separated by 45 minutes, 50 miles or whatever it is between Helena and Butte. I was born and raised in Helena. It's a big deal, and it's fun. It's a lot of Montana kids that played, played with each other, against each other in high school. And it's a big deal. It's kind of goofy the way our schedule is now, where it's considered a non-conference game this first go around, and then we'll play them again at the end of the season as a conference game. But I don't think kids or coaches, non-conference or conference, it doesn't really matter. It's a big rivalry, and I think it's a big rivalry because most of the time it's a heck of a ball game, and it's two really good teams and two really good coaching staffs battling it out, and it makes for a lot of fun, and I think for the fans it's a big deal because it is such a good rivalry game. But our approach has got to be that it's a big time game. We can't understate that, but it's it is just one more game this week, and we also know that we can't have a post Georgetown hangover where we're feeling too good about ourselves because we had a good game. We know we can get a lot better and make some improvements, and we want to use the confidence from winning that first game for sure. But we know that every week we got to reset, and it's a big challenge that we have going down to Helena.
Before you jumped on, Coach, Jason and I were talking about that. Having an extra couple of days may help, kind of getting over that physical game, the adrenaline cycle, kind of getting things back on track to normal. Starting really tonight, being Sunday night. And obviously what Jason said too is like, this is a rivalry game. So this is, if there's ever a game that's going to be not real difficult to get up for after an emotional victory like the Georgetown win, it's playing your rival in Helena. So this is going to be cool to watch.
Yeah, we're excited. Like you said, it doesn't take much to get up for the Tech Carroll game. And I think honestly for us, it's just making sure we're not too high or too low, and just really managing our emotions, especially at the beginning of this type of a game, just to make sure that everybody's excited that there'll be a great crowd like there always is, and just making sure that we don't get too high or too low at the beginning of the game.
So I don't want to keep you too much longer, Coach, because I know you got game week prep and everything like that. But I got a couple more questions for you. And one of the reasons I was excited to get you on as an interview is I've been able to watch you, as a player, 2006 Frontier Conference Player of the Year, an exciting victory, for your squad at Northern when you were playing there to beat Carroll College and kind of have that awesome year in 2006, and then watch you evolve as a coach. But the reason I was super excited to get you on this interview is because Mr. Donley here and you could start your own support group of being the son of guys that were like tremendous coaches. And so with Pat's dad obviously being Kevin Donnelly, your dad being Mark Samson, who you played for at Northern, and then also in high school too. Was he the high school coach when you were in Helena?
He was, yes.
Yeah. So you guys can start your own support group here for being the sons of football coaches and having to come up in that lifestyle.
No, for sure. And I think that I appreciate you bringing that up, because that I wouldn't be here without my dad, and being able to play for him, and then I got to coach with him for 7 years at Northern before I left to become a head high school coach up at Flathead High School, and then my whole life has kind of been in this conference, playing and coaching, and it's a big deal, and it was pretty special. Now he's retired and he lives here in Butte. He actually lives a couple blocks away from me and my family, and just chasing the grandkids around. And he actually he helps a little bit with our program, nothing crazy, but helps us with some film and helps me out on game day a little bit. And then he actually he coached my son's 8th grade football middle school team last year here in Butte, which was pretty cool for me to have my son be coached by my dad, who coached me so much, and that was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's unbelievable, Coach. That's so cool. Yeah, it's like, it's a family business type thing. My dad always said when I got into it, it's like, you didn't have a chance, did you? You got to follow dad. So it's definitely, it's a really cool deal. And I'm out of it now, actually. But, it was a tremendous thing, being around your dad and coaching with your dad. Such a cool deal. And you get to play for him. That's got to be tremendous, too.
Definitely. Yeah, pretty special.
The other thing I look at, Coach Samson, is as we talk here about all this, and I look at you. I mean, 2006, I was running the Victory Sports Network. You're coaching. Now you're at Montana Tech, a program that largely was built by Bob Green and the success he had. You came on staff with Chuck Morrell. Chuck Morrell goes to be defensive coordinator at the University of Washington. You have had to follow not only, maybe unfairly in your father's footsteps behind Bob Green, behind Chuck Morrell, and all these great things. And now you're running this program. My hat goes off to you for just being able to come in and say, well, I'm a football coach. I'm going to coach football, going to do things the way I want to. But you've had a tremendous coaching circle of mentors, I would say, throughout your career.
Yeah, I that's the first word that came to my mind, Jason, is I've been very fortunate, to be in the spot that I'm in as the head coach. It's because I've been mentored by some tremendous people, starting with my father, like we had mentioned. And then, I've known Coach Green for a long time. And ever since I became to Tech, he's been a huge mentor to me here. We talk all the time. He's a huge part of our program still. And then, just super thankful to Coach Morrell for giving me the opportunity to come work for him that first year, 19, to be his offensive coordinator. We kind of built a relationship, when I was at Northern as the OC and he was the head coach here at Tech. We had competed against each other. And then when I went up to Flathead High School, we kind of created that relationship, and he was able to convince me to come down here in 19. And I didn't know it was only going to be for a year before he left to go to Fresno State with Coach DeBoer. And then obviously the success they've had has been tremendous. And now he's, coaching at Alabama, which is just unbelievable. It's you learn things from everywhere you go. And I've been really fortunate just to have a bunch of people that I've got to work for that have just really impacted my life, both on and off the field. And just having a bunch of people I can call and ask questions to, and, to help me out in different situations and different things that arise as a head coach. And I've been really fortunate here to have a bunch of really good assistant coaches that have helped me out tremendously. I mean, at my first head job in college, I knew that, the success of our program is not because of me. It's because I've been able to really been pretty consistent with our assistant coaches, and they do such a good job helping me out. And it's a fun job because I got a bunch of guys I get to work with every day that I truly call some of my best friends. And, we work hard, but we have a lot of fun, and it's been really cool to all the wives and the kids hanging out together. And, you work really hard in this business, but to me, you got to really, enjoy those good times and those moments where you can celebrate with the people that you love. And we've got a great staff here, and I'm just fortunate to be surrounded by some great people.
Coach, did Coach Green give you like any of those great one-liners or anything that you've made your own? If anyone doesn't know, I got to bring this up real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, Coach. Look up Bob Green interviews. It is the greatest thing in the history of YouTube. It is in Twitter following. He's the best. It's hilarious. Like, you will laugh out loud at the interviews. So I know, Coach, you're a pretty serious guy, and but like, man, oh man, Coach Green is absolutely hilarious.
Oh, it's he brightens your day every time you see him. Absolutely. He's always got something, and he's always got something new. Like, I don't know where he comes up with them, but anytime you're around him, you get a great laugh. One of my favorite things is I usually get to go golfing with him quite a bit in the summer. He golfs every day, and I try to get out with him a couple of times. And man, that's some of the best times. Not only just some of the laughs and the things, but also just some of the stories and the things that he's provided. But his one-liners and his Greenisms are second to none. And like, we always give him every year, Coach, it circles the globe. Like, someone will post it, and that thing will start over. And I mean, it's amazing how many people know who Coach Green is. Anytime we go on the road, he travels with our athletic director, Mr. Steppen, when we go on the road. So Coach Green comes to all of our games. And, I remember last year we're out playing Central Washington, and we go out to get a bite to eat after the game, the coaches and Coach Green and Mr. Steppen. And I mean, there's college-age girls wanting to take a picture with Coach Green.
It's a legend.
Because they've seen him on YouTube. It's pretty fun. He's a celebrity.
Unbelievable.
And it's pretty awesome.
You guys were tough for the pine cone toilet seat the other night, Coach. Or rougher.
That's right.
You guys were fantastic. So congratulations, Coach, on that win.
My favorite Coach Green quote, and I'll tell you this, and we'll get you going here because we need to wrap up ourselves as well. But years ago, they played the University of North Dakota, and they got like a $50,000 guarantee or something playing the game, and they got beat. I think it was like 42-3 or something like that, and he got asked the question like, well, you end up, losing pretty badly here, but you did get the guarantee, that's something that can help you program. And in his Bob Green voice goes, that's kind of like asking Mary Todd Lincoln, other than the shooting, how was the play? I love that one. So, but Coach, I appreciate you taking time to be with us here on the show. Coach Donnelly, you got anything for Kyle before all three of us wrap things up here?
Coach, congratulations again. Looking forward to following your team. What a great league this year, a deep league. And like you said, I think, a great experience and adversity and overcoming adversity your team experienced Thursday night to help propel you for this hopefully a deep run for you guys and obviously competitive league. So congratulations and best of luck this season.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on and really, really want to say thanks for all you guys do through the NAIA. I just feel like, the support and the coverage you guys give us is incredible. And to me, I think all of us on this call know the type of football the NAIA has, but to be able to spread that and for people to understand there's great coaches and great players all across this country, it's just a great platform. And I sure appreciate what you guys have been doing. And it, I remember it very vividly, Jason. I mean, one thing I would like to always say a huge thanks is the coverage you gave us when we were playing. And I remember one of my great buddies, Donnie Salisbury, was fighting some cancer in 2007, man. And I always remember that from you. You helped me out tremendously, spreading the word and helping a fundraiser for Donnie. He was my running back at Northern, and he was struggling and went through some cancer. And I just want to say thanks again for that. And it's something I'll never forget. Your platform that you had on Victory Sports and spreading that word for Donnie. That was incredible, and I'll always be, indebted to you for all that help you gave us.
I had forgot about that until this moment, and I vividly, remember the type of cancer. Remember getting the stories out there. I mean, that's why I love the NAIA. That's why I love this level of football. There's so many stories, people that need help, people whose story need to be told, coaches that people need to learn about, and I'm thankful that we get cooperative coaches like yourself that want to come on with us. And as I'll say, I love the NAIA. I was driving around in a tractor all weekend doing wheat harvest with NAIA games streaming on my phone while everybody else was, paying attention to Alabama and whoever. I'm addicted to this, and this is the only way I get that fixed. So
awesome.
Thank you, Coach, for coming on. All right, well, let's wrap things up. That's Kyle Samson. He is the head coach for Montana Tech University, or the University of whatever, Montana Tech. We're not going to do official names here. Kevin, what? I'm completely butchering the outro of this show. Let's just do it again. That's Kyle Samson, Montana Tech. That's Pat Donnelly. I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. We will see you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching.